Minutes time, pretty cold across much of the UK today, so we'll get all the details coming up shortly.
Time now is coming up to 11 minutes past 7. Hundreds of migrants living in the Calais camp known as the Jungle are being asked to leave before bulldozers move in to clear tents away.
French police have given the people who live there days to vacate a third of the makeshift camp. They're being offered accommodation in a new housing project as part of attempts to improve conditions.
Simon Jones is in Calais for us this morning. Morning, Simon. The thing is, not everyone wants to leave, do they?
They don't. This is the entrance to the jungle, and this is the area the authorities saying must be cleared within days. The reason why is over there is the main road that leads into the port of Calais and also into Eurotunnel. And the authorities say in the past migrants have got onto the road, they've stopped lorries and tried to get on those lorries bound for Britain. There are a huge number of makeshift shelters and tents in the so-called jungle. And the authorities say the living conditions just aren't good enough here. It's very muddy, it's freezing cold, so they've set up a brand new camp. It's just on the other side of the jungle. That is made up of shipping containers and can house up to 1,500 people. The idea is people can get out of the cold and the mud, but the problem is many of the migrants here in the jungle say they simply don't want to go there because they feel there's a sense of community here, and they feel that overall the other shelter is a bit like a prison camp, so they're resisting that. And some say they are simply refusing to move out of this designated zone.
OK, many thanks, Simon. Simon Jones there. We can talk now to Lliana Bird, who's co-founder of Help Refugees. This is a charity which delivers aid to migrants who live in northern France. She's in our London newsroom for us. Good morning, Lliana.
Good morning.
We were just hearing from Simon the situation there and where it's been proposed that these migrants move to. You were at the camp, the so-called jungle, a week ago, weren't you? Can you just tell us what you saw, what the conditions are like in there?
Conditions remain terrible there. You know, these people are living in dire conditions, waterlogged, very muddy, incredibly cold. One of our team messaged me last night. It was snowing, very windy, so terrible conditions. But on the other hand, there is an incredible feeling of resilience and pride amongst people coming together to try and make the best of what's a really terrible situation. Not only just the refugees, but also the volunteers themselves. I mean, largely the aid effort there is volunteer-led, including our own group, and you know, people who've given up their lives to go and work there, and so that is quite inspiring. So it's a bit of a case of a tale of two sides there, but yeah, depressing as well, and terrible conditions continue on in Calais at the moment.
And of course, the reason that people are going there to help volunteer and help them out is to get these people into a better situation, which is what the French government says it's trying to do by moving them away from the motorway, moving them out of these conditions into some form of structured shelter, albeit temporarily. So what's your view on how positive this move is?
Well, I think there's been a little bit of confusion, actually, first of all, this week, because the people who've been asked to move, it's the family field largely. So there's another area to the area that you saw just there in your report. And there's about 2,000 people approximately being told to move in a period of time which is frankly impossible to relocate those people. And they aren't all being offered containers. It's not as simple as that. The containers aren't all ready. You can only move about 50 people a day into them anyway. So the task that aid agencies and volunteers and the refugees themselves were given, which was originally 3 days to just relocate 2,000 people, there wasn't even an area designated to move them to, was absolutely impossible. And I think they realised that, and the deadline seems to be kind of moving as we're trying to relocate people and come together and make that happen. But you know, it's not as simple a case of people refusing to move into containers. There are issues with that as well, which is separate, but it wasn't that the people who are being moved were all being told, here, come into these nice warm containers, and they're being fussy or anything like that. That wasn't an option for many of them. You have to remember as well that there's a huge trust issue going on here, and there's a lack of communication between the authorities and the residents of the camp themselves. I was just told that actually in a meeting where they were informed about this 3 days that they had initially to move all these people, the elders of the communities, they have these spokespeople that they've elected themselves of their own individual communities, presented the authorities with 7 questions that they would like answered, and they were completely ignored. They were told they weren't going to have them answered. They just had to do what they were told. There's a lack of dignity here and respect for people, many of whom have been displaced, many of whom have been traumatised and are vulnerable, many of whom have been brutalised during their time in Calais. You know, they've been tear gassed, been sent into the family fields where women and children are repeatedly over the last week. So you have to look at the situation as a whole. And I think opening up communication between the authorities and the residents of the camp, trying to build a little bit of trust, working with us, with the aid groups who want to make this transition as smooth as possible, is the best way forward for everyone, really.
OK. Lliana, many thanks for giving us your view of the situation. Lliana Bird there.